Alright, hello everybody. This is a random live video that I just wanted to do. I just wanted to explain some of my design decisions with this game, The Door Problem. And I'll wait for a few people to come in if there's any, because I've not talked about this anywhere. I haven't told anyone that I'm doing this, so I might just wait for a little bit here. And I'll probably edit this VOD maybe later, and we'll see what happens with that. Let's go ahead and give a little Discord push. A little live announcement here. I do not have the chat, or I have the chat up, but I don't have it showing on the video, just so you guys are aware. But you can chat with me and I can see you and I can respond. Okay, so yeah, that's what we got going on right now. Okay, so for anyone watching, I don't have a view count up here. I should probably have something so I know what's going on. Let's see here. I'm trying to watch my own stream and I'm getting like feedback here. There we go. That's better. Alright, so it looks like I'm the only one watching right now, so that's fine. That is fine. Okay, anyway, let's see. I can't make this one. Oh, there we go. Alright. Alright, everybody. Hey, it's Taylor. I thought this was a YouTube video, but you're really here. Yep, that's me. That's me, Tay. Where's my stream? Man, this is a long lag that we have here. Okay, so I wanted to do a little design breakdown here and just kind of go through all of my design decisions because I thought it was really cool, but not enough to make a whole ass video on it because I don't know, because it's silly. So yeah, I'm just gonna go I guess room by room here. So I already did a live stream on this with Sean Design Frame, and he and I talked about it for a bit, but I just wanted to go a little bit more detailed into it. Taylor, who's in the chat, made the incredible music here, which I'm not. I've turned off all the audio on here just because it's easier for me to talk. But man, the music is awesome. So thank you, Taylor, for being amazing and doing all that for free because I haven't paid you. Man, I gotta pay you. Alright, so anyway, so this is our first room here, and the first thing that we do here is what I call funneling. And funneling is when you are trying to give the player only one thing that they can do. So it's like they can't do this one thing by accident. So when I first made this game, it was this other room, this one. It was this one originally, but I felt like that was a little kind of complex to to have someone come in and immediately expect them to know what to do with these two doors. So that's why I have this first room, which is room number 1, and we have only one door to go through, so the person knows, okay, I should go through that door. For room number 2, it's just, a tad more complex. We have this button that's in the center, and the reason why I made it in the center was to draw their attention, right, instead of having them elsewhere, which will appear later. And then I have this bar that I wanted to animate, but I didn't have the skills to do that. And then we have choose a door or press a button for a hint. And this is the first time that we have a 50-50 shot of choosing a door. But it's pretty obvious to the player that they need to exit, and since there's 2, they will push the button, and then it says 2 dots. And then I added these red outlines on the exits here to draw the player's attention to them. So as soon as they press that button, then of course the lights turn off, which makes it really eerie and stuff. And see the 2 dots. So when we go through there, we then have a confirmation button, and this is like so much design work in such a little thing. So when we go through the 2 dots room, we appear in this little area, this with a glass case, and if the player looks around immediately, like I just did, you can see that there's a little pedestal, which is actually just a primitive, a Unity primitive that's uncolored and untextured, but it has a button there, right? But when you look at that thing, the way that I have it is on the left here on the right room, so that when we look through, we can see that there's another room on that side. Now, originally these were bars instead of glass. I like glass better because it didn't obstruct the player's view. And of course, you can go back and you can actually open the other one too if you want to. I'm playing a older build of this game, the Mac build, but it should work for this purpose. Anyway, when you press that button, then you can see that when you made the correct decision, you can see that there's a red light that appears just over there, and because you're already facing that direction, you can go over here and be like, oh, damn, oh, glad I didn't go in there. So that was the reason why I had it that way. Now, the reason for the lights to turn off I will talk about at a later time, but this one is just further complexifying is complexifying a word? Complexifying? This is a further complex puzzle, so now I'm trying to draw the attention of these specific patterns here, which are just kind of noisy stuff. And it says checkerboard, which of course is only one, checkerboard. So when the player looks at these, they obviously know what to do. Go through here, press that. And now we have a button that is misplaced or displaced. So as soon as we come in here, we can see, boom, right over there. And if you go through this door, which is actually locked now, I can't go through that way. But if you go through that door, then you can see immediately through here that there's a button on that side. So I put it right here so that the other buttons, as you can see through here, they start to move around. So having it on one side instead of the center drew the player's attention to let them know, where to look for buttons, because I didn't want them getting frustrated. Not yet, anyway. not that kind of frustrated, because I do want them to get frustrated, but for a different reason. So yeah, okay. So anyway, so we go over here and then we press that button, and now we have the real problem, which is the vague hint here, falling leaves, and then we have these 2 exit signs that say that. Now this is where the real part begins, the actual design of this game that I wanted, and this is where people start to get frustrated, which is a fun thing to do. This idea here was to give the player a really vague hint, right? Something that they didn't understand, and that's kind of what happens, right? Pretty much everyone that I've play tested with, as soon as they see whatever this hint is, because they're random at this point, when they look at the 2 exit signs, they're just like, that doesn't make any sense. They both look like that, whatever that is, right? It can be fallen leaves, it can be sand, it can be snow, dead pixels, map of a town, space, constellations, confetti, anything. Not anything, but anything that can be translated from these little pixels. So the point of this is to start making the player have these little vague types of moments where they look at a hint and they see something that they believe the hint could be more like. In this case, I'm going to go with the left one. And now I'm concerned because I'm not sure if I'm going to get it right. Press the button and I got it right. And I go, okay, I must have done something good there. So we'll go forward and I see that I now have 2 buttons to press, which is, we'll talk about that in a second. Jar of Fireflies. All right, so this is the same thing. We go through here and we're like, okay, well, I think this one, right? And so when you go through that, then of course you make that decision and you're right again. So what people, what players won't know when I'm, wanting them to feel is confirmation bias, basically. So whatever they decide on the room, whatever room they decide with, I want them to feel like that was the correct decision. And, and it works. For example, right here it says droplets on a window. And to me, this doesn't really look like droplets, whereas this does. So if I go through there, and I'm like, hey, I'm correct. But the trick is, that any door is correct. But you can't go through any door before you press the buttons. You have to press the buttons. And the reason why is to further solidify the player's faith in these hints. So I really want to hit home that the hints are like the driving force as the player goes forward. And what this is representing, this is a direct metaphor of building faith. Because when you build faith, you do like some decisions sometimes that you believe that were communicated to you, but you're not always sure if that was the right thing. Or like I thought I had a hint of God sending me a sign, that said something like, what maybe you're supposed to do this one thing, and when you interpret that sign as, the way that you want, and then you do that thing in your life, then suddenly maybe you're right? So that's like, that's kind of the thing. It's retroactively, what's the word? I guess it's like retconning your life, right? It's like retroactively saying, oh, this is what I did in order to have, I'm not sure how to explain this, and this is why I should write stuff down. Anyway, it's retroactively telling the player that their decision was the right thing to do, and that's a mirror of someone going through the same kind of decisions, and when they're trying to live their life through faith or through some sort of religion. And so we're going to do that a couple more times. This time this is floating balloons, and of course confirmation bias. We're just going to go through whatever. And then the amount of buttons increases because this represents the amount of work that goes into the players, or it goes into the reading of metaphor, right? So, or not reading of metaphor, but reading of faith. So when you use faith to do something, you continuously put in the amount of work, and this is telling the player that, yeah, they're trying to go forward, they're trying to utilize these hints, and I want to make them work for it. I want to make them feel like I need to do a bunch of stuff so I can get that hint, and I really want them to focus on, I need that hint in order to progress, and that's building faith, right? That's just building, again, that correlation that I definitely need these in order to go forward. And what's funny about that is that, you don't need these to go forward. And that's something that will drive home, I think, in this room, in room 10. You notice that there's a little less work here. This one's only 5 buttons. The previous one was 7. Or 9 buttons, I can't remember. And in this one, we have the first strange thing that happens, which is no exit signs. So this is turning that faith on its head a little bit and saying, hey, you don't actually, maybe these hints aren't all that they're cracked up to be. Maybe there's something wrong with these hints. And then immediately when you come in here, you can see that there's a hide button. And it's funny because that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the player a little confused as they come in and they see that immediately, that that's too high, I can't do that, but I'll think about that later, right? And they'll start pressing all the buttons, doing the work for the hint without realizing that what they're doing is, building on their faith, and they're trying to get some sort of sign here. And of course now we see that the bar has decreased all up until this one little button left, and it is unreachable. And because this room is built like all of the other rooms, the player now has to say, okay, well, I have to choose a door, and the hint isn't appearing, so I guess I'll just try this one. And it's because you're right, because the hints don't matter. And at this point, you can choose any door because there's no buttons in this room. Same thing with this one. Even if you press all these buttons, you'll start to see the bar go down, right? Because this is a definite mechanic, but there's too many buttons and I can't push them all. So I just go forward, and now I'm starting to think, okay, maybe these hints aren't actually guiding me, or at least that's what I'm hoping that people think. And so that's a metaphor of losing your faith, of starting to lose your faith as you go forward. And this one just simply says, do not enter doors, and this is very much a antithetical kind of thing that we're pushing on the player to make the, again, for the metaphor of I'm losing my faith, and it seems like some of the signs that I've received seem antithetical to my progression, to my life. Like I want to do something in my life, and I'm praying for it, and I'm not getting the right messages. In fact, this one seems to not give me the right messages. And this one says, do not enter doors, but I'm still going to enter because I feel like I need to progress. I need to keep going. Don't turn off hints. This is kind of a way to put in the player's mind that there's something more to this system. If they try to turn off hints right now, they can't because there is no way to. But they still go forward, again, without any hints. There's no sign that lets them do it. Now this one is where a lot of people get tripped up because the player doesn't realize it at this time, but they have built up such a strong faith in these hints, because again, it's a game, right? This is the only mechanic that we have to go forward. They've built up such a strong faith that they're going to go into the left door when this happens, and if they do that, then they'll die. And the point here is that you're supposed to go, you're supposed to look at the stuff that you're supposed to internalize all the things that have happened so far. And what's funny is that a lot of playtesters that are gamers at this point will go through the left door. Pretty much everyone who's a gamer who I've playtested with has gone through the left door. Now, anyone who is a non-gamer, who people are like my mom, for example, there's also a couple friends of mine who were not gamers who played this, and during those times they emotionally reacted with this because they're not looking for a system, they're just reacting to the things in front of them. So by this point, the people who are not gamers, because they don't have a faith in mechanics, they go through the right door. And that's super interesting to me because that is, the right one, because you're supposed to, at this point, distrust the hints, and the non-gamers distrust the hints. Now this is a funny room right here because I thought this would be the most obvious thing ever, and I didn't really design this extremely well, but what I really liked about this room is that I felt like we've screwed with the players so much mentally by now, right? Giving them really vague hints and not sure what to do, and then this says left door, but they go through the right one, so what is going on? The idea here is that I shouldn't trust these hints anymore. I should not follow these. And if you go through this door and just look, you can tell there's another glass thing there, and there's a countdown, and there's an exit. So why is that way? And again, most players, most gamers will go through that door anyway. And it's really interesting to me that people do that, that they haven't distrusted the system, or they feel like they still need to put their faith in these hints. And so what I was hoping for was to plant that bug in the person's mind so that when they pause the game, they now have a hint option that they can turn off. And if they do that, then they get a new exit. And again, emotional people, people who are not emotional people, which, non-gamers who are reacting purely with emotion and not through mechanics, will often do that. They'll find a different way. Whereas, if you're a gamer, this happens this way. Now, there's another thing that you can do. You can just walk through the wall here. And originally, that wasn't the solution that I wanted. But I figured it's actually really good. It's a really good representation of breaking the faith, right? So if you've had faith at this moment where you've placed all your faith in these hints, and it says enter door, you're like, well, there's got to be something else I can do. What happens if I just look over here and see what happens? And I can phase through. Well, that's interesting, right? So I thought both worked well, even though I designed it for the other way. Now, the timer here, this is for an optional kind of thing, or quote-unquote optional. It is not optional. It is in order to roll credits and complete the game, you do have to complete this by the timer's end. But the idea here is to let the player know that there was something else that they're playing this game for. And at this moment, if they press the button, then they'll say, you're out of time. And they're like, well, what the heck? What am I supposed to do? And then so I have this new little, or I say new, it's not new, but it's a flashlight. But anyway, if they pick this up, then it says your instinct was right, and before you restart the game, which means they do have to restart, turn around, use this light to look above the exit signs. Now, this was a little bit not really well designed for me, because this was something that I kind of just put in last minute after I had noticed that there was a lot of people that kind of missed the idea that they had to, do the whole game again, but they had to figure out, what to actually do to work against the hints. And if you look above the exit signs, what people will often do is this. They'll do that and go like, well, there's nothing above the exit sign, so I don't know what they're talking about. And so that's kind of my fault. I feel like I should make a texture change a little bit, but what they're supposed to see is that little ink blotch right there. And the reason why it's so faint is because I want it to look like a mistake, right? I don't want people to pay attention to it. And sure enough, when people first play the game, 9 out of 10 people don't pay attention to it. There was one person that actually figured it out on the very first try, which was hilarious, but that was a special case. The reason why it's a flashlight is because most of the rooms were dark by the moment that I put in the flashlight in the first time. So I wanted people to be able to look through every single exit and say, oh, okay, so every door that I chose had that little ink blotch on it. Well, that's crazy, right? And then basically go through the game again. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's a texture. Is there a texture error? No, that's a lighting error. Okay. Anyway, yeah, so these rooms right here is what the flashlight was really meant for. So that when you go up here, you go, yep, there's that ink blotch. And it's there on every door that you've chosen. So the idea here is that the ink blotch was the ones that you had decided to choose, whether or not you knew it. And if you look at even the first exit sign, there's that ink blotch. In fact, if you go to the title screen, you can see the ink blotches just above there. They highlight. And that was like just a little hint that I wanted to play with the player. Oh, did I crack? Nope, I didn't. Okay. So now if you do that, the timer is meant to make you want to go through faster by, selecting the right exit without pressing these buttons. And so if you just follow the ink blotches, then that'll happen. Now, what a lot of people don't pick up on, which I think is pretty cool, is the design error in here. Because if you can go through these doors, the correct option each time, then, it seemed like there were vague hints here before, right? And sure enough, if you go through, you see this one is the right one, so if we go through the left one, this one will kill us. Okay. But if we do that again, I have to go through to room 4 here. This is room 3. I'll go through this door. Alright, so if we go to room 4 here, we can see that the correct one from the secrets is here, right on the left side. But we can still pick the right one because we have the vague hints. So if we press the buttons first and we have that weird hint, a crowd at the concert, we can pick either one and we go through that one, and now we're good. Now, why did it kill us before, and why did it do it here after we press the button? It's because it's trying to strengthen the player's faith, right? I wanted the player to feel like they had real punishment, right? I wanted the player to look at these 2 doors and be like, okay, well, it doesn't matter which one I go through, so I go through whatever. That's not really what I wanted. I wanted the player to look at these 2 doors and feel like one was the right one and one was the wrong one. So that's what I wanted to put there. So in order to have that, I needed to have some sort of lose state. And so that's what this was meant for. Now the design weakness in that is that the little ink blotch, in this case it was on the right side, the little ink blotch can move depending on which one you go through after you press the button. So if you go back here and look at this exit sign, you'll see the ink blotch here instead of that one. And it's because it's retroactively programmed, which I thought was a really fun thing to do, but it is a design mishap because it doesn't really complete the metaphor in any way. In fact, it doesn't even communicate the metaphor in any way. But anyway, yeah, so that is pretty much the design of the door problem. I originally had wanted this whole thing to be... It was originally much different. Actually, I did want to talk about it a little bit. So the ink blotches here, like I said, they can hop, right? They can change doors. But the reason, I wanted to hide that from the player, so in order to hide that from them, when they press all the buttons, the lights turn off, and now you can't see the little ink blotch at all. So if it was over there, now they don't know for sure, so if they go through this one, because they pressed all the buttons and they get it right, they can't go back and just look. They're like, wait, I thought it was over here, or whatever. In case anyone wanted to further, dissect the game, which no one really did, but I did design for that. And that was the reason why the lights turned off. But originally, the lights were a thing for hallways. So originally, when you opened the door, it would go through a hallway, and the hallway had a bunch of buttons, rather than a giant room like this. And they actually weren't buttons; they were wires that were sticking out of the wall. And if you ripped out all the wires, then the lights would turn off, right? It would basically glitch up, and then these exit signs would glitch up, and then there would be like a hint that would appear in like a ethereal way. I didn't go that route because of how involved it was. So I wanted to reduce this to like the easiest thing I could. I also wanted to replace all the buttons with like different types of tiny puzzles to make it really tedious. And again, I wanted to push that factor of when a person plays this game, that they feel like they have to do all of this work. And I wanted them to feel that. I wanted them to feel like, why do I have to do so much work to get these hints? Well, because the hints are not, they're not true. This is just you. This is you acting out your faith. It's a lofty goal, but it was a fun one to try to get. And then before the idea of the hallways and all that, I even had actually the game began as a first-person shooter, where the person would be given blessings as upgrades, and so when someone is given a blessing, then they are upgraded either on like more accuracy or something like that. But it was a way that the player could see that they were doing something better. Like if we got better accuracy, they would feel as if they had got that upgrade, but they wouldn't be able to, nothing would actually change. It would just be their belief that would change. And that's the kind of thing that I wanted to build the most on, was changing the player's mindset of the mechanics involved and not actually changing the mechanics. And because I really find that fascinating. This whole game was based off of the movie Silence, because there was one part in Silence where I can't remember the main character's name, but he was faced off with seeing his friends being tortured, and he had made the decision. Excuse me. He had made the decision to renounce his faith in order to save his friends, and the reason why he did that was because he was finding out that his faith was not intervening, that his faith in God was not saving his friends, that there was a disconnect with what he believed, and that's what this game was inspired by. So like a room like this one, like number 11, this is where my faith is now no longer applicable to my situation, right? The situation is realistic, where the button is unreachable, and yet I still believe I have to press all the buttons in order to know which door to go through, but you don't, right? You can just go through any door. Technically, that's not really true, because, like I said with the design thing, where you have to press all the buttons first. The idea from the beginning was to hopefully make it so that the player didn't have to choose, that they could just go through whatever door they wanted. But again, I had to make sure that the stakes were real, so that's why it was so controlled and so binary. But the metaphor, I think, stays intact a little bit. It depends on what the player reads, basically, and I wanted to keep that kind of open. And so I know this is a different. Actually, I guess let me just do a speed run really quick. So, the original take of this game, once I built it, was just these hallways, right, and just these doors that had nothing to do with any email system like I have now. But the email system was built because I wanted someone to analyze their feelings when they played through the gameplay, and that was something really difficult to tell the player to do. And even now that I've given them that context, it's still a thing that people don't do, and it's interesting. I think it's just the way that people look at games. And I found that that was a design flaw for me. That what I should have done was given players reflection points to where they could go through the game, play something, and then stop and reflect on what happened. One of the ways that I thought about other games doing that was Metal Gear Solid, where you can't shoot the rocket launcher at Cyber, what's his name, Cyborg Ninja, and when Snake says I can't do it, right, and you try to fire and he doesn't do anything. Or the middle stick to dodge in Batman Arkham Asylum, or even in Portal, where you're not really told to escape, but you figure out how to escape. That was in those moments you have reflection points, because the player plays like a little bit, and then they stop and they have to reflect on what they did in order to make sense of what it was. So yeah, so there's the solution there. And then so this email part, this is actually not here. This is an early build of the game. That's why it looks like shit. But in this email part, this one is redacted. This is from Dr. Amara, and then this one is the one that you read. And the point of that was to give the player a kind of a way for them to, interpret the whole game as what they wanted, basically. So, like, I didn't want to give an incorrect reading of the game. I wanted anyone who have played it to come across this email and be like, oh, I see what happened, and then, fill it in with themselves. And that was the whole point of, doing these emails where you're Shay and you're, a psychologist student. But in here we do, like, if you have a what do you call it? If you do the redacted, is that what it was? Redacted user and redacted pass. No, that's different. Okay, this is an early build of the game, like I said, so it's different in this one. But if you do that, the secret one, which if you go back to the inbox in the new game, in the version that's released, then you can get a new password and stuff, and then you'll log in with those credentials, and then it unlocks this email. And so if you really want to, you can do that, and then you read through the interpretation that the psychologist Dr. Amara had for that whole experience. So yeah, that is what we have here. And of course, this email just explains exactly what I explained, which is that the whole game is a mirror of what, in this case, Philip Winthrop, what he went through, which was the rejection of his faith before he had died. So yeah, that is the door problem, and that is my whole spiel on it. Thank you for watching, y'all, and I'll talk to everybody another time.